This episode is proudly sponsored by ADL Academy. ADL Academy is the leader in leadership and management development. With over 15 years of experience, ADL Academy has empowered more than 50,000 graduates from over 500 organizations in the kingdom through its uniquely designed action-based programs. ADL Academy demonstrates commitment to driving lasting behavior change and ROI post-training through innovative action-based learning methodologies. Discover more about ADL in their website, which is showing on your screen right now. Hello, and welcome to our episode today of our podcast, Human Capital Uncovered. Chat with Haifa. I'm your host, Haifa Abu Zabiba, and today we'll be delving deep into the realm of human capital. With us today is a well-renowned expert in the field, Ms. Magdolin Bokhari. Hello.
Ahlan, Haifa. How are you?
Hi. Magdolin Bokhari is a HR professional who has experience over 25 years, where she demonstrated expertise in human capital in general, and especially in talent management, engagement, and implementing human capital systems. She is been in leadership roles in well-esteemed companies, including King Abdulaziz Medical City, Saudi National Bank, and Bin Zagir Company. And also, more recently, she has been a graduate of the 2030 Leadership Program by MISC, and she's a member of the Saudi Leadership Council, and she offers freelance career enhancement services through Magdolin. Hi. So, Magdolin, tell us today what has been in your early career that has led you and helped you to become the success you are today?
Wow, early on, so I guess that started from right after school. But I think, as a graduate and walking into the field of work, I believe that there are 3 or 4 items that I recall that basically shape who I am today. One of them is my continuous learning. So learning, whether it was a training, whether it was developing my skills through extensive projects, or whether, for example, it was reading books. And for reading books, I'll explain to you how I got into the world of HR through a book that I read. Second of all, it's basically building a strong foundation ethically and through integrity, so understanding what my values were and how I want to instill my values throughout my work experience, basically, and working on my interpersonal skills.
That's great. These are amazing reasons, and that all lead to the success of many people like yourself. Can you provide an overview of your role as CHRO in your organization?
Like any CHRO, basically our roles are quite described and defined, basically, in terms of looking at understanding the business, looking at talent management and acquisition, building a total reward structure, looking at engagement and building the culture. But I believe being in a startup, which is something that I was challenged to take on, because I've never been in a startup where ambiguity, chaos, setbacks, challenges, you name it, you're faced with, and you need to build everything from scratch and grow as you learn. So I believe part of it was establishing a foundation for our HR, or for the organization especially, through building a company with values, and making sure that these values are instilled in our culture, that going forward, looking at what are going to be, our competencies, and how we can translate that into key behavioral indicators. I don't want to create an organization where I say I'll do that later, and then comes a legacy where I can't fix a lot of things that have been built in a certain way. And so I believe that instilling these factors and instilling this culture and this engagement environment helps a lot in building where it is. So in addition to the regular strategies and admin and operations, it was basically instilling an infrastructure of HR and a culture to go forward with the organization.
Yeah, that's amazing, and you're right. It's sometimes an advantage to start seeing things from scratch because you get to, create it yourself, and you don't need to have the organization unlearn what they have before.
True, and I think we've all faced that basically.
Yeah.
So you walk into these legacies, and you struggle to create new cultures and new formations of where you want to be. Definitely,
That's great. And how do you ensure that the HR strategies align with the company business goals?
Wow. We've been there, Haifa. It's taken us a long time to see ourselves sit on that table. So I think we've both been there trying to find a seat on the table and addressing, how the importance of HR is in an organization. Growing and being more mature now, I believe that we have to understand the organization's needs and understand the business itself, and then probably go ahead and look at our stakeholder involvement. So we need to have that relationship quite strong to understand, the employees, the customers, the shareholders, and everybody involved at stake here. Additionally, I think we also need to look at, conduct a gap analysis of where the organization is, where HR is, and how we can find a point in terms of a meeting point to go forward with that. And finally, evaluate and adapt as we go. And that's how you can make sure that the business is on track with HR.
Yes, definitely. And then what are the biggest challenges that you face as a CHRO in Saudi Arabia?
Do you want us to go there? Well, many people say that diversity, inclusion, blah, 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 but it's more than just diversity and inclusion. Recently, diversity and inclusion not only includes having females on, but how are we accepting people with special needs, for example. Diversity inclusion makes sure that we understand that people coming from all over the world to work with us are actually included in our various aspects of how we do business. Another thing is also the cultural considerations. We are a country, of various regions, various diverse backgrounds and ethnicities within our country. So how can we bring all these cultural considerations in the workplace and ensure that everybody is engaged, aligned, and understands and respects each other's, differences and also similarities. Additionally, I think it's the regulations, the ever-changing regulations, where you need to be abreast and also quite up to date with all the changes that are happening. There's major changes happening in various aspects of the regulations. So I think it's also important to make sure that happens. And but finally, I don't think that HR in Saudi suffers differently from any other part of the world. I've managed global HR roles, and I believe we're equally the same in various organizations and in various countries.
Great. Could you share your journey of skill development that enabled you to meet the changing and evolution of the role and requirements of a CHRO role?
Right. So there's probably some professional development in terms of accreditation. So working on my CIPD, ensuring that I attended seminars and workshops, but in actual fact, it's a lot of webinars that I attended, a lot of coaching that I do on the side. So people say that HR is not rocket science. It's even more complex than rocket science. It's people science. It's understanding the people, understanding how you can keep track of all of that and make sure that you're fair, you're equal, you're just, you have values, you have integrity while you do that, and you understand people's situations. So adapting to different situations is very important. But I believe that personally, it's my continuous learning in various areas of development that I've looked for. So whether it was stretch projects, conferences, as I said, professional development and reading.
Yeah, that's, and do you find in terms of topics that, there are different topics nowadays, for example, than 10 years ago, where you're focusing on specifically like maybe data analytics or something like that?
Yes, so in the past I wasn't technologically savvy, I believe, and although that's what got me into HR first of all, so I had to write a paper about the merge between HR and IT. However, regardless, I never thought twice of it. But you know, as we go forward today with this world, it amuses me how much we can use with data, how much important it is, and what we can use with AI going forward. And that's one of the things that we did as we established, you know, in a startup company. But we've already run we went live with our ERP system for HR, basically, which was the first model to be out. And I believe that, you know, that there is so much we can do with data analytics and technology that we never thought we could use. I remember as a young one, as a young HR manager, I instilled something called the video interview, the one-way video interview. And I was like, and I was pro that. And then I had to experience it during my MISC interview. And I felt awful for putting all these young people into a one-way interview where I had to experience it myself. So I believe some things are there, but we really need to live through these experiences before identifying that they do fit or they don't fit for organizations.
Yeah, that's very true. You know, the implications of technology, we need to really study that carefully.
Very true.
You know, we've all seen the word culture move from being a buzzword to being something that is a priority for all leaders in an organization. How do you view culture? Is it really that important? Will the attitude or of the colleagues or the employees make or break the success of the company? And how do you institute that in a company as well?
It's interesting that you asked me what I feel towards culture, because that's part of my title. I'm the Chief People and Culture Officer, and whilst we were you know, developing my title in the organization, we said, what is it that we really need to do within my current organization? It's basically instill a culture, build a norm, build practices that people don't have in other organizations, or do have but are not consistently working on them. And when you look at organizations that have cultures instilled in them, you look at, you know, the consistency of what they do. So part of my KPIs is ensuring that we have events in the organization. Another one is instilling that we have town halls. Now in the town halls are very structured. They happen every 2 weeks in our organization. We give the opportunity to deep dives, and these deep dives are basically built or presented by our N-2 and below to give them an opportunity to speak and deliver their messages. It's important that we have small little cultures. So once we have a new hire that has his ID badge, we actually we call the CXO of that area to come and place the badge over their head, and they clap. So these are small little activities that we do within us to ensure that culture is built. We take culture in terms of, you know, how much do we involve our teams in what we're doing. And I think it was interesting because we were a startup, and that's something that I'm not used to, but we actually included our team members in how we want the office to be built and look like. So it was an opportunity that I've never experienced in many organizations, where I had to take care of, you know, how the office is going to look like, the furniture, the CHRO chose, but this time it was more of an involvement of everybody in the organization, and I think that really helps in building a culture that has an open communication and a way of describing what you want and how you want it to be done.
I fully agree with you, especially things like workspaces, and it does make a difference, especially since people are there for at least 8 hours every day. So having them actually put input into that and what it looks like, I'm sure they feel like it's you know, they created it. So that's amazing that you gave them that opportunity. Yeah. What role does diversity and inclusion and equity play in HR strategy, and how do you promote a diverse and inclusive culture in a workplace?
We're a startup, we're 21 persons, and today I have 40% females. I have over 6 different nationalities, and within Saudi Arabia, as I said, I have people from various parts of Saudi. So diversity, inclusion, yes, is a very important part of it. We have people in the leadership, we have people, we have females in the leadership table, we have females in almost every single business unit that we have today. And I guess that's one of it. The other part in terms of inclusivity is understanding that everyone comes with a certain way and a certain flavor and a certain allergy and a certain, like and dislike. So for example, when we celebrate birthdays, we've already sent an email to everyone requesting them what kind of flavors of cakes they like. So it's to that extent where, you like tropical fruits, that's fruits, then we're gonna get you a cake that has tropical fruits. You like the milfeys, then we have the group of the milfeys, and we ensure that we celebrate all together. I remember we had an NRC meeting a few months back, and we had around 6 different asks in the NRC meeting. And I recall that my boss and I were both in our meeting in our offices with glass doors, and so we could see the whole team standing behind us and putting up signs and saying, are we going to have ice cream? And so once I gave the thumbs up that the NRC is closing up, and very positively, and we walked out the office and we had jars of ice cream, and everybody was celebrating. So they included themselves in these asks. They included themselves in the NRC without being there, and they included themselves in the celebration where we had to give it to them. However, they included us in the celebration of the organization. It's quite interesting how collaborative we are, and my only fear, to be honest with you, Haifa, going forward is how do I maintain that and make it consistent going forward as I grow from 10 to 20 to 40 to 100 by 2025. That just freaks me out sometimes, and I think it's making sure that we have these consistent inclusion and diversity aspects in the organization that will help me maintain that and be consistent in delivering what I have.
I think that's amazing. And what came to my mind when you were talking is sometimes women, they have different personalities, traits than men. For example, they could be more shy, or sometimes too assertive, or sometimes they not confident in themselves. What do you suggest for organizations to do in order to help women feel more comfortable speaking up and basically adding more value to the organization and being more comfortable even if they're not ready yet?
Yeah. So today we have 2 seniors, myself and another young lady. We're having another one joining us, and I believe that we've made a platform to make it open for our young ladies to come in and talk to us about topics. Now she can come in and talk to me or my colleague about a topic, and depending on how she feels, we start to encourage her to go and say that message or give that ask to her boss on her own. So we help coach and mentor her towards how she can do it. I believe that women who are quite young and may feel shy or may feel too assertive when they respond, I think that they do require a space and a safe zone to come in and talk about what they have and be helped through coaching and mentoring.
That's amazing. You talked a little bit about technology. Maybe we can look at it from also a different aspect. How do you leverage technology and data analytics in order to create more insight and to improve HR practices to drive better decision making?
This may have been in past organizations where I had enough data.
Yeah.
As I said, today I'm growing into a new organization. But I believe that, without the data, the decisions are not made, how do you say that? So basically, we require the data to make sound decisions. Okay, we require us as HR to understand also financial data to be able to make those sound decisions. And I believe that organizations that do not start thinking of having dashboards and understanding the data that goes into these dashboards and how they can make sound decisions are way behind going in the future.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, many organizations are trying to create this. Some are more ahead than others, but I think this is a challenge for most organizations.
I recall my two team members, just as I left Riyadh yesterday, they were saying, remember that dashboard we talked about? Let's share it with her next week. And I was like, I'm intrigued. I'd like to see the dashboard. So I guess because we're quite small, but they'd like to do something basically. So it's interesting how they have that also on their back burner.
Yes, definitely. And then for the aspiring HR professionals, maybe early on in their career, what advice would you give them in order to kickstart and accelerate their path to success?
Well, we all started quite aggressive and angry and wanting to do things. I think they need to think about things twice before, so they need to think of how they want to react and say something. You know, be wise, you know, be calm. Think twice about, you know, stakeholders and how you're going to meet them in the future going forward. Okay, don't make a lot of enemies, because frenemies at work that don't really work. You know, if you're an enemy, you're an enemy, and it's very hard to build bridges back again. Whereas it's a small world, so you need to ensure that, you know, that you say the right things in the right way. Additionally, we see this a lot, and it breaks my heart that people don't give organizations and themselves a chance to learn. I mean, your first year is just, you know, learning the organization. Second year is probably delivering on some of the organizational needs and getting to know who you are as an individual. And third year is probably, you know, understanding how that all evolves. So, you know, jumping from one organization to another organization is not going to give you enough stamina to grow in the future. You've got to experience the various aspects of your job, whether you're in HR or not HR, regardless. I mean, you've got to understand how you can actually deliver on what is going to be requested from you in the future. I mean, many of us walk into jobs where we haven't done 50% of what we're supposed to be doing, and we lack that experience. Enjoy the journey of learning, enjoy the journey of the job you're in. Make sure that you make the right decisions with the organizations you're joining. So, you know, does it live up to your values? Does it live up to your development plans? You know, are you going to enjoy work there? And make the best of it, definitely.
This is amazing advice. That is very helpful. Thank you for sharing that. And that wraps up our enlightening conversation with Magdolin Bokhari on uncovering human capital. We explored the depths of engagement, diversity, and culture among a number of topics. Remember, the greatest asset is not your product of services, it is the people. And thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to bringing you more insightful discussions in the next episode. Until then, please keep uncovering the potential in your human capital.